And good evening, all. How are you all out there? However, you're listening to me, whether you are on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or however this is coming to you. Hello to you. This is Big Meat, and you're dishing tea, darlings, with Big Meat right here and right now. I want to come to you very briefly because I've got to get ready to go to the donut factory. But in the meantime, I wanted to share a few comments regarding the whole LeAndria Johnson thing and carrying on because I have heard some things and carrying on, and wow. You know, folks have some real strong opinions. I've read a lot of things, and the kids are trying to come for her and blast her out and carrying on. And oh, you know, when you're dealing with traditional children, sometimes I really and truly don't understand how a lot of people have allowed themselves to be so ingrained in something to where they refuse to let themselves see the other side of the coin. And I know that's a human thing because I guess I'm guilty of it as well sometimes, but that's just being human. But at the same time, when it comes down to church, and we know that particularly the black church, and I want to specialize in the black church because my experience has been the black church experience, even though I've gone to a number of different kinds of assemblies and sermons and church functions and things of that nature. I grew up in the black church and all of that, and many of you have already known that I have since left a lot of that, the doctrine and the dogma and carrying on of what it is. I have left a lot of that traditional teaching. My mind has elevated to a point to where I am seeing God in a different way. And I'm embracing a number of things because if God is everything, then God is also the atheist, the agnostic, and all these other different things as well. Because just because we don't agree with it doesn't mean that God did not create it or that it doesn't exist because of what tradition wanted to teach us. And what fascinates me is that though there's so many things out there about tradition, about religious and religion, that the studies and the science and stuff that's out there, a lot of people know it's there, but they refuse to allow it to take precedent, you know, or at least to have some kind of barometer as to whatever the thing is. Particularly black folks, honey, or those who follow Christianity. You have come to believe that because it's not in that Bible or whatever, honey, then it's not the word of God and it is not of God. But it's so funny that we have built a religion, Christianity, around a man who is a Jew. And the Jewish folks don't even build their religion around him. I find it to be fascinating, but that's a whole nother topic. What I am going to get on is the politics of the church. And a lot of people were a little bit upset and carried on about LeAndria because she went and blasted them out. She F-bombed and this, that, and the other. She just, you know, said fuck Christianity and carried on. And I totally agree with her. Christianity is one of the biggest domestic terrorist organizations that we have on the planet. And yeah, I said it because there's so many things that have been done in the name of Christianity because you say that it is God. And yet you refuse to let everybody believe God or have their own personal experiences because they are not doing it the way you say it should be done or the way Christianity dictates that it should be done. And we have had, we've had people have the KKK and the white supremacy. Now they claim to be Christian, and yet they ostracize black folks all the time. Slavery was an act of Christianity. Okay, the hell, how does Christians bomb churches? The 4 little girls, honey, who got bombed in the church, honey, that was done by right folks who believed that they were Christian. Okay, how does abortion clinics get bombed? Okay, and doctors and abortion doctors get hurt, all in the name of Christianity. Yet you say that I'm not supposed to kill, I'm not supposed to this, I'm not supposed to that, and all these particular laws and things are supposed to be standard. But yet, under the moniker of Christianity, We have allowed and we take precedent in carrying on, and everybody could use the Bible, honey, to support some kind of argument. They've been doing that for centuries. Ever since the Bible that we know it to be has come into existence. And y'all want to swear by King James and carrying on, but the science and the evidence has shown that King James, honey, was a gay man who did not like women and had a thing against women and carrying on. And I'm referencing all of that because LeAndria did her thing, honey. She sat down there and being hurt by the church, being told all this, and coming into something that we as children, you're born and raised into it. Okay, the thing that you do, you take them to church, honey. You take them to church. You take them to church because that's what the family did. You want to instill some kind of guiding principles in them, so you teach them about God and this, that, and the other. Okay, that's lovely. But what ends up happening is now you want to sit down there and you want to become so heavenly bound to where you are no earthly good. Everything now becomes Jesus this and God go do this. Are you gonna burn in hell for that? Oh, this is an abomination. Oh, sin, 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 sin. And yet you want to tell this lie that because you are born again, that, oh, I'm sin free. I sin no more. I'm covered under the blood. But yet you want to go smoke your cigarettes, you fornicate, you go and have all the pastor fucking everything in the choir, in the church. You got all these babies out of wedlock and carrying on. And yet the politics of the church, as long as it look good, we don't talk about it. Everything is done under the dark to keep your appearances and carrying on. It doesn't make sense. And y'all blasted LeAndria for her comments. But as someone who has been up and in the church, as someone who's been in the gospel music business, because mind you, the word here is business. She has come into a business to where now she see how the money is rolling. Everything now is about that coin. Everything now is about securing that bag. Everything now is about how I could get this to do this, that, and the other. Okay, y'all have seen the number of gospel plays. You've seen the number of gospel televisions. You've seen the number of news reports that the IRS that came in to wonder how these mega churches got all this money and this, that, and the other. Well, what you fail to realize is that church is a business. It is a nonprofit business. All the money that they make and carrying on and generate becomes tax free. They don't pay taxes. They don't do anything. And yet the church is the guiding, ruling principle. Every time that the law, the Congress children and everything, they want to change the law. They want to do this with the law. Who do they go to? They go to the evangelicals. And they sit down there and get y'all riled up and carried on. And when they rile y'all up, then y'all want to make sure, oh, God said this and God said that. And that there becomes a problem. Because for those who don't believe the same, for those who don't interpret the scriptures the same, for those whose walk with God is different from yours, you want to sit down there and use Christianity and say that's the superior religion when you have all these other different religions that come behind it or stand next to it or whatever the case may be. And yet you negate all of that. You negate their thought processes. You negate everything about them. And so what LeAndria is saying about church politics, how it works, how you want to sit down here and how is it that one denomination, the Baptists want to say that, okay, the women come in, they don't want women wearing pants in the church. And then the Kojic say, okay, you don't wear pants and you can't wear makeup. No, that's not Kojic. Kojic is that the women are not supposed to be the leaders in the church. Okay, you can't have no leadership position where you're the pastor. You could be an evangelist. You could be a deaconess. Okay, you could sing in the choir. You could be a choir leader and carry on. But as far as those things that make decisions for the church, the Kojic don't believe that, child. If y'all don't, okay, remember the pastors of, what was it? Was it Detroit or whatever it was? Yeah, the pastors of Detroit. And they had the woman pastor, and Dorinda Clark Cole was on that show, and she was sitting up there. They had this little rift between them because she was like, well, I just don't believe that women ought to be pastors. I'm like, bitch, you 60, and you still hold on to that. But a lot of that stuff is how this excuse me, how this thing goes. And yet at the same time you preach that the first pastors were Mary and her sister when they sat there and said he is risen. Y'all say that's the gospel. Those were the first pastors, because that's what the gospel is, to go and spread the truth, to spread the good news that Jesus is arose. And y'all teach that from the pulpit, yet a woman can't be a pastor. Really? A lot of the stuff that LeAndria was going through, yes, she's been hurt. She's been ostracized and carried on. You guys shunned her for her type of ministry. She says down there, yes, she went on the whole stroll. Yes, she was giving out cigarettes and carried on because you're supposed to meet the people where they are. Y'all didn't talk about it when Jesus turned the water to wine, was with the well, was drinking and carrying on. So what was the difference in that? What was the difference in that? See, that's what I'm trying to, and oh God, that just hit me right there. I'm trying to really understand, how is it that you say we want to be like Jesus and carrying on, but yet when folks are actually walking the walk and doing what Jesus did, according to what you say the red letter edition of the Bible is supposed to say, this woman and her ministry, honey, it was unorthodox because it didn't look like what you think that the church supposed to look like. She went out there and she went to the people. Yes, it was a television show on top of it. So then you had that extra element to where there was a couple of things that they had to do for the TV sake of it. But her ministry was real. How dare you sit up there and say that she wasn't supposed to be a real pastor, this, that, and other. Donnie McClurkin got up on YouTube and shit and got to talking about how this ain't no representation of God. I am so tired of people trying to say what is and what is not a representation of God, when God is everything. If you teaching me that God is everything, then there is no such thing that this is not a representation of God. Because didn't God create Satan too? So what is it? If God created everything, then that means everything is some kind of representation of God. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to say it's the devil or not, God created the devil too. And remember, the way how you teaching it, God let the devil have reign over certain things. He gave the devil permission to do X, Y, and Z. See? That's what you taught in the damn Sunday school lessons and carrying on. That's what you teach from the pulpit. So if that's the case, why are y'all sitting up here getting on this girl about this, that, and the other? Dietrich Haddon had to put his mouth on it. And you want to sit up there and say, no, your demons are your demons. That's at your church. Dietrich, aren't you the one who done sit up there and had a baby out of wedlock or whatever? You done sit up there and cheated on your wife and carrying on. You got funny acting because your name was coming out of people's mouths too tough and carrying on. And you had your explosion and carrying on about the church. Sweetheart, just because she sat up there and did it the way she did it, you may not have liked that, but that's the one thing about this whole thing that I do not get. If you are saying that the church is supposed to be a place where I could come and express myself and I can sit down here and get what's on me off me, and you want to allow the chance to a person to express themselves the way they need to, the way that it's on them, regardless of the language or whatever they use, that language may be offensive to you, okay. But if I'm feeling that, let me get it up off of me so that we can deal with it with the real. Now, LeAndria came back and she apologized for saying it the way she said, but she didn't apologize for her message. Clock it. She didn't apologize for her message because she said, like I say, the church politics and carrying on, or what's supposed to be the business of the Lord, is what she detests and what she is sick of and what she's tired of. You losing gigs and carrying on because folks sitting up there saying you ain't no real pastor and all this old bullshit. You losing gigs because you sitting up there and you was on the YouTube or whatever, or the Periscope having Patron when the pastors and carrying on sit down there. Hell, they can't wait till they get over the service because they go puffing on the cigarette. Or you creeping at night and carrying on. If y'all was listening to Sister Circle Live, the one boy say, honey, that was from Sunday Best, that hell, he was doing the bookings and he was going on the bookings with the pastor, and the pastor would get the adjoining room next door to him. So in the daytime they could sit up there and preach the word, and at nighttime he creeping with the boy. What is that? Why is it that hypocrisy is something that nobody wants to talk about until they are hurt? Those of you who are leaders don't want to address that until it becomes something that your church has to deal with and you feel as though you are up under the wire. Now all of a sudden everybody's being hypocritical. No, that shit started from the head, boo. Because nobody wants to be transparent. And then what you claim to be transparent, what you claim to be bold, is bullying. You want to sit down there and call somebody a whore and this, that, and the other, when there's better ways of doing that and still addressing the problem. Or when you want to get on the gay thing, honey, you want to call them faggots and dykes and this, that, and the other in the pulpit, and sissies and all that, because you don't like it and carrying on. I think that you having a bold spirit of discernment. No, bitch, you sitting up there exercising your demons because of some shit that you don't like, or you scared that somebody gonna sit up there clock your tea. So in order for you to sit down there and make sure ain't nobody gonna talk about you, you got to spew all this venom out there and say, oh, I'm just a spirit of boldness. Really? Y'all lit up off LeAndria, honey, because everybody who, if you sit down and listen to them, everybody has that particular kind of story because you're human. She's human just like everybody else, child, and she got sick and tired of the bullshit, and she had to get it up off of her. And if she had to do it when she took a drink or whatever, how she was dealing with her problems, that's what it was. So, darlings, listen, the church is a whole big old, big old, big old mess. Okay, I would never. I won't say I won't set foot in the church, but I would never. I would never, ever align my allegiance or give my allegiance to another set of doctrines or anything that is a man-made religion. I am open to all kinds of interpretation and carried on. I still say that the teachings of Christ is my core. However, that's not all that I function, because the way how you teach that shit, I don't agree with anymore. Okay, because something about those pieces don't mean the same. It don't fit the same the way that it used to. And my consciousness has developed. So for those of you, you may have your naysaying about that. I don't care. But we got to learn how to do this a little bit better and stop telling folks that they are reprobate mind. Who are you to say somebody is of reprobation? Bitch, you ain't got no heaven or hell to put nobody in. Who are you to say who is a reprobate? Because they don't agree with you or you don't agree with them? That's what makes them a reprobate mind? Come on now. Ain't no, if you don't have a heaven or hell to put me in, then you sure ain't got no judgment to give to me, because now the scriptures say, judge ye not lest ye be judged. It didn't say don't judge. It said judge ye not lest ye be judged. Meaning that if you put your mouth on me, I'm going to put my mouth right back on you. How about that? So with that,